Hi, hello, vanakkam, and welcome back to yet another episode on your favorite Little Slaw YouTube channel. So today, in this video, we're going to see about, in fact, we already saw the challenges of CAPTCHA in performance testing. What is CAPTCHA? So we saw what is a CAPTCHA. So in this video, we'll see why is CAPTCHA a problem for performance testing. And if you have not watched the video on what is CAPTCHA and what are the various versions of CAPTCHA, please do watch our previous video. I'll even share the link in the description. And in this one, let me just explain you why is CAPTCHA a problem for performance testing. So we do have performance testing tools, right, to send automatic requests. So performance testing tools like JMeter, K6, LoadRunner, and Gatling. So these are designed to send multiple concurrent requests which simulate real-world traffic. But CAPTCHA is meant to block the automated request, as we have already seen in the previous video, to bring the difference between the bots and to bring to understand like who is a bot and who is a human. So it actually makes, the CAPTCHA actually makes it difficult to execute the large test when you're running with the tools like JMeter, LoadRunner, or NearLoad. And the next thing is like CAPTCHA blocks the automated user. So if CAPTCHA is enabled in the test environment, it will stop the test users from proceeding, which will lead to errors and incomplete transactions, which we all know, right? And the next thing is like these skewed performance test results. Say, for example, if the CAPTCHA interrupts the normal flow, the response times and the system performance may not be measured correctly, which leads to unreliable test results. So in this video, we'll see, there are several ways actually to handle the CAPTCHA. And like for example, one of the ways is how disabling the CAPTCHA in the test environment, and then we do have we can use a static CAPTCHA response, and we can mock the CAPTCHA API, and we can bypass the CAPTCHA for known IPs or test users, and we can use session authentication instead of CAPTCHA. We can use CAPTCHA solving services and various other ways to do. But in this video, we're going to see how to disable. Firstly, we'll see why disabling the CAPTCHA in the test environment is required, and then we'll see how to disable it, and we'll see what are the advantages of disabling it, and what are the disadvantages of disabling it, and what are the best practices for disabling the CAPTCHA in the performance testing environment. So, firstly, let's start with disabling. So, we should disable the why we should disable the CAPTCHA in the test environment. So firstly, CAPTCHA, as we all know, is primarily designed for security in production environments, which will prevent the bots and automated scripts like from the performance testing tools. It will actually consider it as an unauthorized transactions. But however, in a performance testing scenario, we use tools like JMeter, K6, LoadRunner, Gatling to simulate multiple users interacting with the system. And these CAPTCHAs, actually what it does is they actually block these automated requests, which makes it difficult to do any login or any registrations or even form submissions workflow, right? When you're doing it at scale. So since performance testing is not about security, but it's all about the system behavior under load. So just let me underline this point. Performance testing is not about security, it's about system behavior under load. And these CAPTCHAs can be temporarily disabled in the test environment to allow uninterrupted test execution. So now we'll see how to disable the CAPTCHA in the test environment. And now we'll see how to disable the CAPTCHA. So there are like three different approaches. So the first part is we have to work with the developers to disable the CAPTCHA for performance tests, because most applications have different environments, like one for dev, one for staging, one for testing, and one for UAT, and one for production. There are like several environments, right, for each of the different environments. Like we do have different uh, for any application, we do have different environments, right? So the development team can implement a feature to turn off the CAPTCHA only in the test environment, and this will actually keep in active, like this will be actually kept in active in production. So all we're going to do is all we're going to disable the CAPTCHA only in the uh, testing environment, or the environment where you're going to do the performance testing. And this can be done through configuration settings, such as we can toggle the CAPTCHA off for specific test users or for specific IP addresses, right? So that's even possible. So it's not just about the environments. You can do it for specific test users, or even you can do it for specific IP addresses. So that's the very first thing. And for that, you have to work with the developers to disable the CAPTCHA for performance testing. And the second part is using configuration flag or environment variable. So many modern applications, as we know, have feature flags or environment variables that allow the CAPTCHA to be enabled or disabled dynamically. For example, in a backend configuration file, you might have to make the CAPTCHA enabled equal to false. So that will actually disable the CAPTCHA enablement. That will actually disable the CAPTCHA basically. Or if the system supports environment variables, we could set the CAPTCHA enabled equal to false. And even the developers can also implement a logic check, like if the environment is equal to test, then you can disable the CAPTCHA. So we're doing all these three options. So basically what we are trying to do is we are trying to disable the CAPTCHA through the code. So we can use the configuration flag, or we can even use the environment variable. And then the third approach is we can ensure the CAPTCHA is disabled only in the test environment. Say for example, we can always verify that the CAPTCHA remains enabled in production to avoid security risks, but we can use role-based access to ensure only performance test accounts can bypass CAPTCHA. So by doing this, by approaching any one of these approach, we can actually disable the CAPTCHA in the testing environment. And now we'll see what are the advantages of disabling the CAPTCHA for performance testing. So by overall, we know that there are a lot of advantages of disabling the CAPTCHA for performance testing, but let me bring you top three advantages. So one of the first advantage is simplifying the performance testing. Yes. So once you remove the CAPTCHA, we are actually ensuring that the virtual users in our performance test can complete the transaction smoothly. Yes, because we don't have a CAPTCHA basically, right? So there is no blockage, or there is no way where you are supposed to enter the CAPTCHA and then you have to proceed further. So all we are doing is we are removing the CAPTCHA and making sure that the virtual users in our performance test can complete the transaction smoothly. And the second part is focusing on the core application performance. Yes, so by disabling the CAPTCHA, we are actually eliminating the unnecessary barriers, and we are actually measuring only the real response times rather than worrying about the CAPTCHA part. And then the easy implementation, because most applications allow disabling the CAPTCHA through settings, and this actually make this approach very straightforward, because we can run only the testing and we don't need to worry about the CAPTCHA and every other part. And now we'll move on to the disadvantages of disabling the CAPTCHA for performance testing. And now we'll move on to the disadvantages. So far we saw about the advantages, which is simplifying the performance testing, focusing on the core application performance and not bothering about the CAPTCHA, and then the easy implementation. And now we'll see about the disadvantages. So what are the disadvantages of disabling the CAPTCHA in the performance testing environment? So what happens is the very first part, which is the test environment may not fully mimic the production, because we are disabling the CAPTCHA, right? So once the CAPTCHA is disabled, the test environment may behave differently than production where the CAPTCHA is active. Yes. So when they say that the CAPTCHA is active, so in a moment that you are trying to trying to apply the CAPTCHA, and then you're moving to the actual application. So yes, you're not actually mimicking the production, but still, yes, anyways, we are achieving what we are supposed to do. That is, we are achieving the, or we are able to understand the performance of the application, but we are not exactly, yes, 100%. It's not kind of an apple to apple, but in terms of application performance, yes, we are comparing apple to apple comparison, but still, when we are mimicking the steps of logging in, like entering the username, credentials, and then entering the CAPTCHA part, and then we are clicking on login. So that's kind of a little bit of difference, right? And then the second part is we cannot measure the CAPTCHA's performance impact. In some cases, in very few cases, if the business actually wants the CAPTCHA validation, yes, the CAPTCHA validation itself might introduce latency. That is, if it relies on an external service like Google reCAPTCHA, disabling it will actually prevent you from measuring that particular impact. Yes, so there are several disadvantages as well in this very first technique, in this very first approach of disabling the CAPTCHA. That is, you are not mimicking the production. That is, when you are disabling the CAPTCHA, the test environment may not fully mimic the production environment, and you cannot capture the you cannot measure the CAPTCHA's performance impact. And now we'll see the last part, which is the best practices for disabling the CAPTCHA in performance testing. And now the last part, which is what are the best practices that we have to do when we are disabling the CAPTCHA. The first thing is we have to document the change. So we always have to keep a record of when the CAPTCHA was disabled and when we are ensuring that it is re-enabled after testing. So always document the change, and especially in terms of the CAPTCHA part. So when you're disabling the CAPTCHA, make sure you're documenting the change and you're keeping a record of when the CAPTCHA was disabled and when it was re-enabled after testing. And you have to use a separate test environment. So if possible, we have to maintain a dedicated test environment where the CAPTCHA is always off. Yes, we can always keep the CAPTCHA off for your environment where we are always doing the performance testing. Even you can enable this for automation and for functional testing, but you don't need it for the performance engineering or performance testing environment. And you can always test with a small sample in production. So if the application allows, conduct limited testing in production to measure any performance impact of the CAPTCHA validation. Yes, so with that, we come to an end, and let me give a quick conclusion. So disabling CAPTCHA in the test environment is one of the simplest and the most effective way to ensure smooth performance testing, but it should be done carefully to avoid security risks and ensure that the performance test results remain accurate. So if you are planning to apply, if you like to apply, if you need to know a step-by-step guide of disabling CAPTCHA in Geometry K6 scripts, let me know. We'll have a look at it, and we'll see the next approach, the second approach, in our next video. So until I meet you all in our next video, it's bye bye from Mr. Shanmugam and your favorite little Sra YouTube channel. Take care and bye bye.